there are lots of arguments that I would say I see, and I think to myself, this makes zero sense. This does not make any sense at all to me. I don't understand what people are thinking. That's the case right now with the idea of college football being played in the spring. And this is such a bad idea, all right? First of all, college football needs to be taking place in the fall, and all kids need to be back on college campuses in the fall. Kids in college are under a greater risk of being struck by lightning than they are of dying of the coronavirus. They are much more likely to die of the flu or pneumonia than they are of the coronavirus. They are more likely to die driving to a college campus than they are of the coronavirus. All of these are indisputably true. Okay? These are factually easy to research and indisputably true statements. People have lost their mind over the way that they are responding to the coronavirus, and I blame to a large extent the media for not sharing the actual data. But irrespective of that, there is no guarantee whatsoever that it's going to be safer to play college football in January and February and March than it is in September and October and November. In fact, it may well be more dangerous for college kids to play in January, February, and March. Let me explain why this is a ridiculous decision on many different levels. But let's begin here. One, the goal by which it is being considered actually doesn't make any sense because, again, in the winter is typically when viruses spread the most. You typically don't have the flu in the summer. You typically don't get as bad of colds in the summer as you do in the winter. Viruses spread, regardless of what virus it is, much more significantly in the winter. So college kids are much more likely to be in danger in January and February and March if you are concerned about the coronavirus in those months than they are in September and October and November. It makes no sense whatsoever, even from a health perspective there. On top of that, think about the health that you are then requiring college kids to theoretically play January, February, March, take off April, May, June, July, and then they're right back in to another season. So you're making them play 2 football seasons in roughly a 7 or 8 month period, meaning their bodies are going to be taking beatings and hits that are more significant than they are used to. As if that were not enough. Why in the world would any top junior or any senior with hope of playing in the NFL ever play in a January, February, and March football league? Think about it. The NFL Combine is in February. When you have to go out and train and prove that you are capable of being a professional would be right in the middle of the spring football season. Why would you risk your health in order to play in college when everybody else is immediately starting to train for the NFL Combine? I know a little bit about this because I trained for the NFL Combine and wrote a book about the experience. That's how I met Jeff Schwartz, who sits in as one of our guest hosts a lot. About a decade ago, I went through all that training. As soon as the bowl game is played, all of these guys rush immediately who hope to play in the NFL and start working on getting their bodies into peak physical condition for the late February NFL Combine so that they can be prepared to run the best 40-yard dash possible, to have the best pro day at their campus. There's no way that top players would play. I wouldn't tell them to play. You wouldn't tell them to play. Trevor Lawrence is never going to play for Clemson if the games are being played in the spring and he wants to go pro and go number 1 overall, as he likely would. Why in the world would any player that believes that they have a chance of being a high draft pick not focus on trying to be a professional? So in addition to the fact that it's not going to be safer, okay, which is a pretty big deal, because January, February, and March probably are going to have a higher rate of viral infection. In addition to the fact that it's not going to be safer, you also are dealing with the fact that you are going to then play 2 seasons in the space of about 8 months, right? It's a pretty significant deal. And then also all of the best players are going to sit out because they're going to be focused on going to the NFL. Think about it. You got guys who all sit out the bowl games now when they are top contenders for the NFL, and now they're going to definitely sit out. Think about this as well. A guy like Tua can get injured in November. He can then be healthy enough by the time it gets back to April to be able to put himself into a position to be a high draft pick. If a guy like Tua got hurt in January or February, he would never be healthy enough to demonstrate that he's ready to play in the NFL. Not to mention, think of all the guys that would get injured in January, February, and into March and April that would never be able or healthy enough to play again in NFL training camps by July. This is just one of the worst ideas that I have ever seen. I think what will happen is if college football doesn't play in the fall, they're not going to play for an entire year. This spring idea is lunacy. It is absolutely bonkers to even remotely be considering this. Furthermore, the NFL will slide right in and take over Saturday from college football because the NFL is going to play. The NFL is hoping right now that college football elects not to play because they will completely take over the fall sports calendar. And they will say, oh, you're not going to play any games on Saturday? Thank you very much. We will play games all day Saturday and all day Sunday. And some of you out there who don't like college football, you're probably listening to me right now like, hey, that doesn't sound like an awful situation. I think the NFL, if college football doesn't show up, would elect to play games on Thursday like normal. On Saturday, they might well play three different time slots, and then 3 different time slots on Sunday. They do the 1, the 4, and the 8 kickoffs, and they would take over all of the college football broadcast windows. And it wouldn't even be a difficult decision for the NFL, and it would be a huge boon to their overall product. Frankly, I'm not sure how college football deals from a pure mathematical perspective when it comes to balancing the budget with missing an entire year of college football season. In addition to the fact that you have to probably extend all the television contracts because you're not fulfilling your obligations there, we're already seeing all these different college athletic departments cutting team sports. All of their money just about comes from college football. Moreover, if you're playing college football in the spring, are you able to play at all college basketball? I wouldn't think so, which means you might be going for a second straight year of no March Madness. Now, some of you out there are like, we're going to have a vaccine. We're going to have a vaccine. I hope we have a vaccine. I hope we have a vaccine and it works flawlessly and everybody's 100% healthy. Are you willing to risk that? To just stay in your homes and not do anything for the next 7 or 8 months to protect yourself from something that has almost a 0% death rate if you are young and healthy? And I'm defining young broadly. I'm not. I'm living my life. I am out and about. I think we got to keep the economy going. I'm more concerned with the 40 million people who lost their jobs than I am with people who may get this virus. I understand that upsets some of you. I'm telling you from my perspective, the risk of 40 million unemployed is more significant than the risk of this virus. The average age of death from this virus is older than the average age of death in this country. Let me repeat that. You are more likely to die of something other than the coronavirus at a younger age than you are to die of the coronavirus. The average person dying of the coronavirus is older than the average age of death in this country. That's pretty significant. That means all the things that are out there, you are more likely to die of something else. So this argument, which somehow has taken root and somehow has been promoted and argued in favor of, is one of the worst arguments I have seen in some time. And it's like nobody is willing to stand up and wave their hand and say, wait a minute, guys, this is absolute stupidity. If you don't play college football this fall, you are not playing college football for a year. And if that occurs, then the hit to these college athletic departments is going to be seismic. And I think we're going to be set up for a lot of lawsuits regardless, because colleges have to be open, period. If you got a kid and they are going to school, I saw USC, Southern Cal, say that they're primarily going to be doing remote learning for the fall semester. USC is $75,000 a year. Why in the world would any parent pay $75,000 a year so their kid can sit in front of a computer screen in the basement of their house for a fall semester? I got a 12, a 9, and a 5-year-old. I want them in school this fall. 7th grader, 4th grader, kindergartner. If they aren't physically present in school this fall, I am going to be really upset. I love them more than anything in the world. They matter more to me than anything in the world. They're not in danger. That's why 67,000 pediatricians, the Association of American Pediatricians, came out and said kids need to be back in school. That's why they said that, because there is a huge difference between being in school and not being in school. And that difference is magnified the older the kid is to a certain extent, but also it's magnified to a large extent based on whether or not a kid has good fortune, privilege. Do you have work and Wi-Fi at home? Do you have parents that are able to help you with things that you don't really understand that well? Do you have any kind of support structure? The richer kids are doing better with lockdowns than the poorer kids are from an academic perspective. If you care about everybody trying to have a level playing field, this is a massive difference in the way that everybody is treated. Spring college football is lunacy. It's one of the dumbest arguments I've ever seen. Kids need to be back in school, period. That's college. That's kindergarten. That's everybody.